All right, welcome to Liquid Bliss Worldwide. Dominic
Welcome.
Flores with Steven
Steven
Sakash. Today, we have the honor, privilege, and fun of introducing you to Devyn Kohl. I met Devyn 7 years ago, when Devyn was 16. She's our first Gen Z guest. She's an actor. I was her acting coach in a class that she took, and she had just come off cheerleading. You're going to hear all about it in her interview. But then she became like one of TikTok's first
Million
big stars with like 1 million followers. And she was in my acting class at the time. So I watched her kind of bridge this kind of influencer celebrity thing that she'll talk about. For like, she doesn't like those words, but she does have an amazing community of people in her, and she's going to talk about some really cool stuff today. She's like a daughter to me. I adore Devyn and support her in every way. She's an actor though, and she's really, really good.
First time I met Devyn, I'm like,
thoughts?
this is a very emotionally intelligent person. You just pick up on it right away. Just saying that was like my first initial reaction to Devyn.
Yeah, she was a remarkable human. I told her I met her. I was teaching at this class at this school, it's acting school, and then I started my own school, and it was only going to start if she was willing to kind of like be part of it, because she's a light in this world and a very good human. And I really am proud to present this conversation that we have with her. So, what else anything else we should really say about her?
I don't know. She's a very good Gen Z representative, because she's in the world of all this new media, basically, that our older generations, didn't have to grow up with.
Right.
Everything wasn't being filmed. Everything wasn't being out there, being public. So getting that perspective, I think,
she's really a unique perspective. She's given us a lot of good input too for Liquid Bliss Worldwide and the things that we're up to. Man, she's just a good one. So
yeah, she's awesome. Let's get
all
to
right.
it.
Hi, Devyn. Here we go.
All right.
Liquid Bliss Worldwide.
We're gonna pick our angel cards. So should we do it all at the same time, or should we make Devyn go first? Devyn, go first.
Me go first. Okay.
Yeah. This is the lens of which you're going to answer the questions today.
You're making it so hard for her.
So much pressure.
That's hard for me to do.
No, we all are going to
We'll find out. I think we find out halfway through the interview. We're like, oh, we're touching on this.
The goal is to see how much we did, because I believe we will. What'd you get this time? What'd you get?
Wow, it's so decorated. Joy.
Oh,
nice.
Okay. You're allowed to have a joyous conversation.
Cool.
It will reflect. Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's a good one.
We're gonna We're gonna make our own cards, and they're gonna have like contrary things in the mix too. So just to joker people.
Devyn and I have been picking angel cards for 8 years.
Okay.
I've been doing angel cards since
yet,
1991. I've been picking angel cards. Mine for today is compassion. Oh, I think I have compassion for you most of the time.
Yeah, I'd say so.
What if it's like, bro, you need to be compassionate, because usually you're not nice to her.
No,
what if it was that?
No.
Mine, commitment. Huh?
What?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm a little perplexed by all these words.
Joy, compassion, and commitment.
Okay, we'll find out.
Okay, well, commitment for you could be what we were talking about before this even started, about like, we're talking about being committed to your cause and to your purpose. How I'd rather just sit on set all day and be an actor.
Oh, you and I, when we were talking?
Yeah. And you were going to be you're like, I could just sit around being a writer, but
there's so much more easier energy things for me to do. And instead of taking on a huge, massive amount of responsibility with things, that gets me a little stressy sometimes, but it's good for me because it keeps pushing the envelope of what I can take on. And so got to do a lot of work to keep doing that. But, yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about. There's an easy road you can take, or there's like,
and that's where commitment would fit in, because there's a commitment, it's not an unwanted commitment. It's like you're committed to something that you're supposed to do, even though there's easier paths.
Yeah.
Like I would really rather just be and I will be on a set all day on some sitcom or some show. That's fine. But this is like being in the producer mode of Liquid Bliss Worldwide puts me in a whole nother, like I know the producer mode well, and I consciously choose other things. And this is the first time it's been so aligned with my higher purpose that I'm going for it. But
yeah, let's get rolling then.
yeah, no, but I
Enough
like that
about
this.
us.
But I like this is that it should be in there. But it has enough about us. So Devyn, okay,
It's a really good question.
this
you've
is the
asked
only
me
one
so
that has
far.
to start off on the phone. Okay, so here's
Couple
a specific
grabs the
one,
phone.
and it's not bad that I was coming from a producer mode because this is the funniest part. Okay, so you have over 1 million followers on TikTok, right? And you have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. So if you decided to promote this long form podcast that you're doing right now, your community of people, that's the word we've talked in life, and that's the word that's better than fans. It's community when it comes to your social media. So they might actually tune in, right? And they're going to learn something about you that they know already pretty well because you are very honest and stuff in your stories, and I know how much they do know you. At the same time, I know you as someone who looks out for them. You know, you're also like, look, this is what I'm putting together, this is what I'm wearing, and you can get this for this price, and this you don't have to. You're also someone they know that looks out for them. And they're I was watching the Martha Stewart documentary. You had that same kind of like, look, I'm gonna tell you guys how to do this. It doesn't have to be as crazy as they make it. So knowing all that, what does that do? What do you do for yourself? Like, what is the level of honesty that you like to have in regard to this community that I know you feel very responsible for and love dearly? Like, what does that mean as far as like sharing yourself with them? Like, how much does that factor into a conversation like this, if at all?
I think in general, the way I carry myself online is very true to myself. I know, certain creators can go down the path of playing into a character or a brand a bit more, which is just a different way of controlling your business, I would say. I don't really pursue social media as a business venture for me. Of course, I still have, I get paid from certain brand deals and whatnot, but that's not my goal, I'd say. It's cool, and for a while that was a lot of what I was doing, but I didn't want to treat the people who follow me as shoppers almost, because it's, especially in this day and age, it's very easy for you to almost feel like you turn yourself into a small business, where that's just not what I was into. I wanted to just be very candid and share what I wanted to share. And over the years, I think the biggest part for me is I used to share a lot when I was young and like a teenager, because I started when I was about 16 and now I'm 23, and I don't share as much. I just want to push what I find important. I do it less casually and more with intention. But at the same time, I'm not posting crazy, thoughtful conversations. It's more just coming across genuinely versus putting on a facade.
Where do you draw the boundary for yourself with like how much you share?
I don't know. I think that's just a boundary I have instituted within myself already. I felt at some point when I was reaching my 20s, I got uncomfortable with some of the things that was online. I'm not going to harp over it too much because I was young.
What was it?
It was just too much of my life. Like when you're a teenager.
Sorry.
Yeah,
no,
what is it?
fine.
So we can.
Yeah, no. When you're a teenager, first of all, I didn't realize I was being spectated in that sense. Yeah. The views, the number to actual correlation of how many people it was never clicked until I was older. Hundreds of thousands of people. When you see that number under a YouTube video, you only feel like it's a small room, really, but it's quite more than that. And social media has a nature of capturing your highlights and lowlights.
We always talk because our generation and generations older than this, we didn't have to grow up with that stuff. Like if we were having a camera on us all the time,
we wanted it though, didn't we? Want it? I was a person who would have wanted
it.
Just
like them, right?
or I would have
be doing just like they would be doing, but. The fact is we didn't. Mm-hmm. And so now she's reflecting on stuff that is out there. That'll always be out there. And so this generation is coming up with this different sort of perspective on themselves that, hey, I was young, and they've got to come to terms with their youth sometimes, right? It's
as simple as just teenage moments that you kind of like. I think even actors and people of other spheres who were in front of a public eye, they all say when you're young, you don't understand the full premise of everything, and you don't have oh, maybe in the future I wouldn't want that online. It's just silly things. It's nothing that I'm like, oh, that's bad. It's just like small videos that I wish were gone, but they're there, and I just let it be.
I mean, you have to give yourself grace.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So let's go into how you even got started, because I want to talk about Alex and your friendship with him. But it'll also clue me in a little bit. You've already said you kind of maybe didn't know what you were up for, but like you didn't necessarily ask for this, but I guess you had to have known at some point, becoming his friend, that there could be an opportunity. I don't even know the right words, but that this could happen. So I guess you don't have forethought to it, because it had to happen. Then you're like, oh God, I guess there are a lot of people watching me. So how did you meet Alex in the first place? Blessive is and tell us about Alex.
Yeah, so Alex is my best friend. He's a big time creator across almost every single social media platform. He's been doing it since he was maybe 14. He's
How old
also
is he
my
now?
age. He's
Okay.
1 day older than me.
Really?
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Yeah, like less than
And
24
we're-
hours.
So good.
Wait, so he's 1 day older than you.
We're 1 day apart too.
We're 1 day apart.
Oh, that's cool.
And we're best. We're besties.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. And so how I met him is actually, I'm going to try to make a long story short, but it's a cool story. I call it one of my biggest butterfly effects in my
Ooh.
life, because I didn't meet him first. I was actually, when I was younger, I was a little bit late to social media. Like kids in middle school, when I was, 12, 13, I think even younger than that, started getting Snapchat and Instagram. I was just a bit late. I didn't have much interest in at the time. I was so focused on, I did cheerleading. That was my whole life. And it came up later, but I was at my cousin's house and they really loved YouTube. And there was an ad for a platform called YouNow, which was one of the first streaming platforms. That was all the platform was for, just to go live. And
It's
it
such
wasn't
a futuristic name, just thinking about it.
Right.
Now.
right. It's so crazy. And so my cousin and I went on there watching some people, and they have a guesting feature which allows the host to invite one of their viewers on to be on the stream just until, for however long they want them to be, whether that's the whole stream or just a few minutes. And my cousin and I were just so bored and wanted to go and test how many streams we could join and get guested. And
Okay.
our bait was, if you guessed me, I'll do a backflip, because I could do a backflip at the
Oh, that
time.
is so
And it's just like
good.
these streams only have like 5 to 10 viewers. It's nothing crazy. And
Right.
we're just doing it for like this slight little thrill of like, oh, people are watching.
Right.
And so they would add us to the stream. I'd do a backflip and we'd go to the next stream. And so what I'm getting to
How many
is
backflips did you do?
a bunch. Yeah. It was so addicting.
We're going to
We
have to
just-
do that too. It'll be a different outcome.
Maybe you discovered the secret of life. You should have stopped right there.
Yeah,
You get like this
I should've.
dopamine rush from like, oh, they're letting us on, and then you do it, and then like the energy of doing it is so fun, probably, and then they're off you in the next one. That's
Yeah.
addictive.
It was such a funny transaction. It was just fun, pure fun at the time. Like I wasn't thinking much beyond that.
But keep going. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
One of the last streams that I came across there was a British kid, and it was all Americans when we were watching. So we're like, oh, accent, that's so funny. And so once we were guested, I did a backflip, but then instead of immediately getting off, we ended up speaking to him for a bit. And he was also the same age as me. And so some of the other people were a bit older and like just didn't have much interest in engaging in conversation. But what ended up happening is I became friends with this guy. His name is Devyn.
Okay.
I added him on Snapchat. He lived in New Zealand at the time. He just moved from England, all these things. And he was my friend for about 6 months, casually over social media. It was like my first internet friend.
Okay. And what social media is around at this time already? There's Facebook already. There's
It
YouTube
was-
already. Is there YouTube? I mean, not
Yeah.
but YouTube's around. There's Instagram yet?
Instagram, yes.
They're all going.
Snapchat, yes. And at the time, TikTok was Musical.ly, its former platform.
Got it. Okay.
And so he was a smallish creator, but to me, like 10K followers on Instagram at the time was like, whoa, you're big time. I didn't know that about him.
Got it.
But yeah, we just kept talking for like 6 months, just regular, he just felt like a friend that I hadn't met yet. And he was interested in going to something called VidCon, which is a content creator convention in Anaheim. And I lived quite close to Anaheim at the time. And he was like, the ticket, the cheapest ticket is not that much. I'm going to be in America for the first time in my life. You should go. Let's meet.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. And I was kind of like, whoa, like I knew he wasn't a creep or anything. And I was like, I don't know how to ask my mom about this.
That's funny.
Like 15 at the time. And I decided, I gotta just go. Why not? I live too close and it's not that expensive for me to just try. And I wasn't even interested in so much in that sphere yet. I wasn't pursuing social media. It wasn't like I barely I had a private Instagram account with probably 50 followers. And I go to this convention. I meet him. He's super cool. He has a couple mutual friends. So there's a group of 4 of us. And on the very last day of VidCon, one of his friends wanted to meet up with another group. And then that is when I met Alex and another friend of mine. His name is Carlos.
Who were all content creators there for the same reason?
Yeah, and I just met them very briefly. We ended up going to, on the very last day, a restaurant right down the street. I barely spoke to most of the table. I was quite shy. And that was pretty much it. So after that, I just went about my life for a few more months. But I did start on Musical.ly, and they had just added the live feature. So you could go live on there. And I tried it out. And for some reason, the algorithm pushed me and they pinned me to where it was called a spotlight creator.
Were you doing handstands or stuff
no,
like that
nothing.
again?
I was just sitting and talking. And I tried live streaming as FaceTiming with people I just couldn't see.
Okay.
So people are commenting and it's not that many people.
Right.
But then they just selected me, it felt like randomly, to be a spotlight creator, which just means people who want to watch a live. If you go onto any app, there'll be some, just the recommended, the first few that pop up. So then I was one of the first few now. And instead of 10 viewers, I had a couple hundred. And to me, I was like, whoa. And one day, the people I met at VidCon, Alex and Carlos, they were on Skype together, saw that I was live, joined.
No.
And at the time you could send gifts, which cost money, which is crazy. They're spamming little gifts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember you guys. This is crazy. And they told me, we're on a Skype. When you get off live, join our Skype call. And so long story short, from that day, they already would Skype 24/7, would just leave the laptop open, go to school and just keep it open. And I just joined the Skype call, and I kid you not, for at least 3 months, that Skype call wouldn't end unless my computer died. We just would come home, oh hey, just randomly, it was so strange. And it sounds like such a weird way to make friends, but that's how we got to know each other. And
it's
then
very
Alex,
Truman Show.
Right.
I know, that's what I was thinking too. Truman Show-ish kind of life.
I know we're not the first to say that.
Yeah. No, it's so strange when I think back on it. I'm like, what was I even doing with my life?
Had you taken an acting class yet?
I think right when I was starting to meet them, I had just started acting class. I
don't want to derail this, but I know from you that acting was the same way. You just took a class randomly through a friend, and you were like, so this came in the same way.
These strange little path of
they just happen upon you.
Very much
and
so.
It's always a risk for you to follow through with it, but there's something inside you that pulls you into it. And then that's interesting. Keep going.
Yeah. I now am pretty close friends with these people, but once again, only know them mostly through a screen, met them once. And Alex in particular was really blowing up. He was gaining a lot of followers really fast. I think he went from, when I met him, maybe 20K on Instagram to the next time I saw him, 200K.
Okay.
And that was only in a span of, I don't know how many months, let's say 4 or 5. He came out to LA, social media managers were just becoming a thing. He got a manager, and they were doing these meet and greets, and it was just so I was getting swept up into this world. I wasn't even a part of it, but just being a close friend with someone who was taking off, and him occasionally posting when, we're on the call with friends or meeting up in person, people started to know who I was. And I was like, wait, whoa. I went to one of their meet and greets just to support and be on the side. Right. And then I was just shocked that even 3 people knew me. Well, you know me? They're like, yeah, oh, we see you on Alex's stuff. That's honestly mind-boggling.
At that point, you're a recurring character, huh?
Yeah, I'm like, whoa. And so from that point, from let's just say 15 to 19, I'm in more of his YouTube videos. He forced me to make a public Instagram account. We were on the phone, and he started making it for me. I'm like, whoa, I'm not ready.
Live on a feed?
He's like, yeah, we were talking, and he was just like, you need an Instagram account. People are asking, and I was like, sure. And so he really we weren't even thinking of it as a business at this time. That's not what social media was at the moment.
But you were a series regular for all intents and purposes at that point.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And so
this is her life.
You went from recurring to a series regular.
And so it just
meta,
felt like
dude.
I was living my life with my friends, meeting
Yeah.
new people, and all of it happened to be captured on camera and
I'm a
posted.
series regular in my own life.
Right. Yeah. And so we just blew up. He quickly on YouTube got 1 million followers, was getting hundreds of thousands of views. I was gaining followers. I was like, what is going on with my life? And it got to the point where my friends eventually, we went on tour together, which is something that might, it's like incomprehensible to me. The fact that people would take the time out of their day to come to a venue and meet us.
It was Buca de Beppo's?
Yeah, Buca de Beppo. We did it all at Buca de Beppo, and we went to, I think, a little bit more than 20 states, 30 shows, and met thousands of people. Like, it was actually quite a lot. And it's so surreal.
How old are you at this point?
I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah. And so for all this to be happening to, like, me at the time and trying to take it all in and have gratitude and also be present, so much was happening. And it's funny to look back on it. It's such a great feeling, even though in my life, tattered in that time, I was going through a couple personal things in my life that I've never shared, never will share. But it was just interesting because full story and why I have a bit of a different view on social media now, was one, it was hard having so much attention on me, starting to see it catch up with like people knowing I started having feelings of people know a little too much and people want a little too much, and to no one's fault. These girls are also like slightly younger than me and they're just interested. That's all it was. But to me, when that they only see it as, they're asking one question, but one girl's asking one question, but to me, I'm having thousands of girls ask thousands of questions. I'm like,
Whoa, yeah.
I don't even have answers to them, and then there's theories and stuff, and all of a sudden it's like you said, I'm no longer a person, I'm a series regular.
Right.
To no one's fault, but that's just the nature of things, and some people know how to deal with that, and others like me not so much. Like, I got through it, but it also is part of the reason I don't pursue social media as much.
Yeah, this is the thing about new technologies and things. As we evolve, we don't know what kind of problems they can cause. So, this generation is dealing with this whole new sort of perspective on, my series regular life and things like that. And how much do I want to share and not share? And, I overshared, and having to deal with that in their life. So it causes potentially new kinds of problems, psychologically and.
Well, what was the most interesting about it is that I believe that what was so exciting about, because I know a lot of stories, we've known each other a long time, but I never heard you kind of like to talk about it the way you just talked about it now, is what a cool story it would be to tell. Like that term series regular, as I'm saying it was kind of just coming to me right now. I'm like, wow, that's very weird. Like, this is like its own show, but then it's more deeper. It's like, Alex, that would be a fascinating biography to watch, filmed, scripted, with you guys all playing yourselves, but kind of like in this like to tell the story. How you just presented the story is the story of your generation. Like, start on this thing, then we went here, and then listening to how you did it too is really interesting. Like, that was really interesting. That's how it all came about, and like, I always want to know the merging of social media influencers, creators with their communities and film. And I know that being an actor, you don't necessarily see that connection sometimes, but man, there's gonna be, we all know, we're Gen Xers, right? And there's been so many movies about us. There's gonna be movies about how creators like you became something, and it's gonna be a cool movie to see. Have you ever thought of that, or has Alex ever thought of making a movie or a story about his life? Have they talked about that? Does their management talk about that? Because it's really a good one. Because he is an interesting guy. Like, I know more about him now just because I care. Like you really mattered. And part of researching stuff was like realizing how much. And so I subscribe to him now too, and he's fascinating. And I always respected him the way you talked. But has he ever thought of making a story about you guys?
He hasn't, but what's funny is also at some point to bring up, I lived in a content house.
Okay.
And I never signed an NDA. It feels like I can't talk about it, but
But you never signed one?
No.
Oh, then talk about it.
What was funny is I, first of all, at the time, did not know why I was selected to be part of this content house. It felt like a random group of girls, and maybe they were hoping that we would just mesh. And I think sometimes it did. There were other this was the era of content houses, and to me,
So where are we now? 20,
21? 20. It was kind of during COVID, but after, I think 2021, coming off the ends of the first wave of COVID, and we thought we were okay.
Right.
And then it was like, wait, we should still be careful again. It was in that time period. And the content house I was in was like on the latter half of like, okay, maybe we're done with content houses. And I even have, I had a little bit of the same mindset of, this is insane, living in a mansion when I'm 19 with a group of girls I don't know to make content, especially because I wasn't, I till this day never really saw myself as a full-time content creator. I did it with my friends casually, and like I said, it's one day just like, oh, it caught up to me. Whoa, now people are telling me to make something of it. And I started making something of it before I was sure that's what I wanted for myself.
Yeah.
And so circling back around, I expressed to the owner of, he ran a couple of these houses, that I am interested in acting and that's something I want to pursue. And that initially I was explaining about management because I wanted to manage me, and I still have management on my acting side, so I don't want that to conflict. But he kept that in mind and wanted to add a couple more influencers who were interested in acting to the house, because he wanted to make a movie kind of about your concept. It was less about the story of being a content creator, but more about a movie about a house of girls who are kind of bratty, and one day the main girl of the house goes to a pizza shop and the guy's really rude to her, but she's big time famous, and she makes this whole story about him and ruins his business. But now he makes it his personal vendetta to expose her for who she truly is. And so it's about the nature.
Like it was Beef.
Was it a true story though?
Not a true story,
No, yeah.
but it was caricaturizing creators.
And you can see it, and then
Right.
from that standpoint, I can see the profitability of it, and the fact that if he made that, he could probably sell it. But what I like better about yours and Alex, and even the content house that you were a part of, because it's a great B story. It's like, of course we'd have like. It's weird, like in our world of Liquid Bliss Worldwide, there's this idea of your future self pulling you into your own future, and when you get there, you're like, whoa, that's weird. But hearing your story, it's really because Alex is fascinating, right? Like he really is, and the fact how it all came in, it's kind of like you got sucked up into his world, right? So I can see that part, and that's why it feels like it's so compelling, because it's better than what your guy came up with at his house, because it's true. And so then it has this profound impact on history. I just saw that Complete Unknown with Timothée Chalamet, and I'm like, oh, this is fascinating, because like he's him. This is like a true kind of situation. And what happened, and what, like you said, content houses, like, I don't know, we'll talk about where we are now, but that slice is kind of over, right? Your beginning, middle, and end of that kind of is, you were there in the middle of it all. You'll always get to say, I was there. Yes, I was a part of that whole thing. And telling your story about it is a way to have ownership of it, so no one else tells your story. And also, it's just a good story. I mean, we know good stories, and it's a good one. So I'll get off this subject of a movie about that whole thing, but it is an interesting, your life, and it's still unfolding, because you're only, 23, 32? It's an interesting way that life's come about for you. Has it always been that way? Have things always just come upon you? Have you noticed that as a magic in your life?
Like big things, or what are you saying? Which
anywhere that it would resonate with your
life comes upon
personal,
everyone.
family, career, just weird things. Like, yeah, I met my best friend the same way. Where, like, I don't know, is there any? Are there instances like that? Because my life doesn't work that way.
Let's talk about the acting story.
Yeah.
How'd you get into acting?
They know this story, but it's a funny story, and it is once again a huge butterfly effect in my life, because it's one of those things, like you said, it could have just passed me by, but it didn't, and I'm super grateful because it steered my course so differently. And so at the time, once again, I was really into cheerleading. I did competitive cheer. It was my life. I just want to express that, so it makes it. You can understand the significance of me choosing another path. That was what I envisioned for my future. I spent
That was the sun.
like
Everything
40 hours
everything was
every week.
evolving around.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. That's all I wanted in life. It's the only thing I had a true passion for and the only thing I loved at the time. And so I also did high school cheer. There was a girl on my team, and we were growing closer, and she had a bunch of siblings, and they were all a little bit in the acting world, mostly the modeling side. Their mom said, if you want to continue down this path, you have to at least take some classes, some training. And she was the oldest of all her siblings, and she was a little less interested in the acting side, and so she thought, I'll keep taking these classes, I guess, but I want a friend to come with me. So she asked me, hey, like, do you want to just try this with me? And I was like, acting class, whoa, like, I've never thought about acting in my life before. And I was like, you know what, sure. And she told me to sign up for her school. I did that the following week. I show up to school 30 minutes early to get all signed up and ready. And I was just nervous. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I was like, oh, this would be cool to do with my friend. And I'm sitting in the lobby once I've signed up, waiting for her. Class is about to start. I'm like getting more and more nervous, and I get a text like 2 minutes before class starts. And she goes, hey, I'm not going today. And that was pretty much it.
It's very mean.
Okay, sure. I guess we're just going to do this. I walk into the class, and I would say, I don't know what side of shy or outgoing I am. It depends on my mood. And it was one of those things that I just accepted in the moment. Let's just do it. Like, don't shy away from it. Just go for it. Let's just have fun. And that was maybe perspective I didn't have with a lot of things. I was more cautious. And so the fact that I went into something so openly and ended up loving the class afterwards was so huge to me. I was like, I like a lot of things, but I don't love a lot of things. And so for something to immediately be like, wait, like something inside, like I'm feeling a lot of strong, like different things, nervousness, but I want to keep doing this. The same kind of adrenaline I got from cheer I was getting in a different place, which was crazy. And I was like, yeah, I want to keep doing this class.
I think sometimes in life, like those moments where you got that fear and all that stuff, and then you just
go for it.
I'm going for it, and you do it. Those are usually profound moments for people. And so you're kind of in it right there, right?
And you almost don't have a choice in it, huh? The feeling is almost in hindsight, of course that was going to happen.
It swept me away.
Yeah.
Do you think if your friend was there, you would have treated it differently, like not be all the way in?
I definitely do. I think because
because you had to.
Yeah, because I didn't know any of these people in these class. You know,
there's. Look,
it would have been fine if you left.
There it is. There's commitment.
I did have to commit. I definitely would have, especially because her and I weren't best friends. It was more of like, oh, like we're friends. I definitely would have felt most judged, not that she's judging me, but I would have felt most judged by her, because all of a sudden you have a peer, like I had to see her every day at school. You know, maybe I would have been shy, but since it was just a bunch of people I didn't know, I probably felt like I'm already here, let's just do it. Versus if she was there, one, it would have been a comfort not to try as hard, but it also wouldn't have, led to the same results. And
Did you have a feeling when I took my very first acting class? I remember it vividly. It was at Saddleback College. I was older. I was like in my 20s. I always had wanted to take a class. I felt like I'd found my home. I'd found my what I'm good at. I knew I was better than everyone in the class without any kind of ego there. I'm like, I can do this. And I locked in a weird way. Sounds like you were more like just like I went to, if my friend had been with me, actually my friend was with me, I'm like, watch what I can do, as opposed to like feeling like, oh, they're going to make me feel self-conscious. Did you have, yours was more you were being swept away into something? Because that's a similar feeling, but were you confident about, what was the class? Was it an improv class? So that's different.
I think it wasn't improv, but it was geared for a younger group. And so it was
What'd you
a
like
lot
about
of,
it? Yeah.
We did a bunch of weird little games in the beginning. Actors have a bunch of weird little games. At first, I didn't really know what to expect, but you maybe at least a little bit are like, scenes and lines and script, but we didn't start with any of that. It was just fun little
these games. Okay,
let's try. I don't even remember the games, honestly.
What were my favorite games? Yeah, it's well, just even the ones where you like there's 6 of you around or 8 of you in a circle and you have to make a story out of it, and they only can say one word, like once there was a, and you go back and forth, and they're all designed to unify you guys together. So I'm going to lead into, so do you think that because I would say there was a unification that you liked there, and these games were always designed to connect you to the people before you get into like whatever your scenes are. So because that's when I met you, is we're coming up on meeting me, and then I taught a class that was very involved again with these angel cards and kind of connecting to that, and you always liked that part of it. And then I was a good instructor for acting because I'd had experience, so I think you trusted, like, all right, well, this guy knows what he's talking about. So I liked that with us, but I wonder if that's like, have you always, because that is the magic I think you found in acting. A different magic I could probably speculate in cheerleading would be trust of your fellow man there, although acting's that way too. But it's this other magic of like synchronicity, kind of like things kind of like connecting in a scene in this way when it goes right, that like, or in an improv or in a game where you're feeling something bigger than yourself. Like, am I fair to say that that was anything part of it, knowing you?
I feel I know the distinction of why I ultimately chose acting versus cheer, because cheer was always something I just loved, and immediately what I clinged on to was the family aspect. It was initially everyone took you in, like you go to the cheer gym and you know everyone, the coaches are so kind, you devote so much time, and with the added element that other sports don't have is, like you said, trust, because that sport is very dangerous. It's so
To catch you.
You trust your coaches when you're learning tumbling not to you fall on your neck and break it, and then you're trusting your teammates when you're stunting, not to drop you. I was a flyer, and so there's so many dynamics that are playing around you, and the adrenaline and the camaraderie and the nature of competitions, preparing so long for like 2 minutes and 30 seconds on a mat, like that's all you get and you're scored. It's such an interesting dynamic, and I fell in love so much with feeling an important part of a whole cog, like a team. A lot of coaches on cheer teams will always say you're only as strong as your weakest link, which is such a scary thing to feel, especially like if you think it's you, you're like, oh my gosh, because it's true. It's like your whole team can do amazing, but if you messed up, your deduction is the difference between first and fifth place even. And so I love that cheer gave me that sense of purpose of like, I never want to let these people down. I can pour 100% into it. And the difference with acting is, as much as it is important to be like working with your scene partner and everyone on set, I felt for the first time that I really mattered. Like, that sounds kind of crazy because I do matter on the team, but I felt it in a more grandeur group sense. And with acting, it kind of felt like, whoa, I'm stepping into what might be my purpose, not our purpose. And it was just a shift, because as much as I loved everyone around me, it was like, wait, something's resonating inside of me that I didn't 100% have with cheer, which was like an awakening, because at some point I came to a crossroads where I had to choose between the two, because they both require a lot of your commitment, and I wasn't about to sacrifice either a team or myself in that sense, and I had to choose what I wanted, and that was not an easy decision. Even though on both sides I would have been happy, I would have known what I was giving up, and I ultimately chose acting, and leaving cheer was one of the hardest things I had done, because I was leaving community and family that I felt I honestly maybe needed at the time, but trusted that I was going to be okay following my heart.
Why do you think you needed it at the time?
My family dynamic was a bit disrupted in especially my high school years, just to the nature of what we were all going through. And so, like a lot of teenagers, sometimes you don't feel full comfort to just go to your family. A lot of teenagers go through that. It's not singular to me, and you want to lean on friends and things like that.
What a healthy place you found to go to.
It was the healthiest, because a lot of teenagers maybe start resorting to other things to find comfort in, which, so
much fucked up stuff in high school, and I just went to the opposite of things that were helpful.
And so the thing is, sometimes I honestly think that experience is so good for you, like to just kind of be wild in high school. Well,
that's my life.
Right.
But that's why, and I am who I am today. But honestly, I have kids, so I'd rather have them
I ended up taking a different route, because cheer gave me so much responsibility, and I felt proud to be a part of it. My coaches had a rule of like, if we ever catch you doing drugs or you get in trouble with alcohol, you're cut from the team. Like, no tolerance. And so to me, it was just like, I never even wanted to. I was like, why would I sacrifice something I care so much about for something that didn't mean a lot to me. I never felt that pressure. And so
and your parents were always supportive. Like they put a lot of finances towards it and a lot of like, right? Because I know it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Cheer is a lot, right?
It is a lot.
And you were committed, like, and everyone was, right? My kids are on teams too, like not cheerleading, but I mean, like,
sports in general.
But it doesn't sound like it was able to do what you had. Like what you had seemed kind of special with your specific cheer group.
Yeah. And so in the moments where I just really needed someone to lean on, that was 100% always there. And to have that in that time period of your life is so vital that I feel a lot of people don't even ever get, you know, like I had no doubt. Like I was like, you know what, if I need to just let all my feelings out and like have someone accept me and then also take my mind off of things, that's the first place I could go. And it was always accessible. I just needed to get there. Those people were there and I was like open arms. And so in hindsight, knowing that I had that, I just realized, you know, there was a lot of times where I could have been alone and things could have manifested into darker times. Well, they just didn't, because I had such great people around me. And I feel like that's the common theme of my life overall is I've felt I've escaped a lot of things because I was lucky enough to have the right people at the right time.
You're good at taking care of yourself, though. I feel like whether that's for the better or for worse.
At some point you have to, because you can't keep relying on other people to bring you up.
Well, the same thing like with acting. Like as much as you love cheerleading, you're like and as much as they're your community and family, you're like, there's something I'm being fed here that wasn't happening in cheer.
Yeah.
And you take care of yourself enough, because some people then they'll say like, doesn't matter though. I need this family too much, and they'll deny their dream because your dream came in then all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And you mentioned gratitude a few times so far. Is that really what you're referring to a lot of times is gratitude? Are these people around you?
Yeah, I feel lucky in a huge sense with the people around me, my friends, even my family now, and in my acting sphere, just because I have taken a lot of non-traditional paths in my life. I've chosen a lot of careers that aren't stable, and maybe some people would be like, hey, you're kind of dumb or crazy. And I feel a little bit of that outside pressure of maybe some people viewing me like that, but to the people who matters, they support me through and through, like with no doubts. I have my friends who'll call me and say, they just get excited out of nowhere, like, we're so ready to see you on a movie screen. They just see it for me. And the same thing with my family. My dad expresses, like, my dad, he sees the world in me.
Yeah.
And that's more than enough than a daughter could ask for.
Yeah.
This is the joy card. So as a dad, I mean, that's what you want for your kid, right? Is really to see you get joy out of their joy in their life when they can find that. So no, I totally, as you know, a dad of two, daughter and son, that's what you do anything for. Really.
Yeah.
No, my mom was the same way. For my dad had passed, I'm sure he would have been supportive, but I know when you talk about your dad, it's that because a lot of actors don't have that. And I did, and you do, and it's kind of the difference in some ways. I mean, hey, the ones who don't have it are like, I'm just going to show them, and they do it for a different reason. But it's really nice. I mean, maybe you feel responsible to make it in some levels.
Yeah.
But it's such a weird career. I'm really glad your dad supports you in it.
Yeah, I am too. And then even on top of my dad, it's like I had my brother just out of nowhere say, like, he's just like, you know, I really believe in you. And
no, that's what everyone wants, is someone who has their back.
Yeah.
So much. I mean, even with me and my sister, it was she came to me one time and said, I'm just so glad you have my back. That's
Your sister did?
Yeah. I mean, that's what...
I've known his sister since she was little too. That's incredibly cool.
And so it's just been like overwhelming support. My acting teacher also says, I see it in you, like in a real way, not in some teacher just trying to, you know, hype you up as your teacher, but as a person to person, like I fully believe in you. And so to have that support in a career where it's, you wish, like, you lucky, like you'll be so lucky if you even get a sliver of a chance. It's such a unique nature, and to have that support is, like you said, I don't think a lot of people do, and maybe they get burnt out, but I keep having this reigniting fire within me because I want it so badly for myself, but I've reached the point where I want it even more for all of these people, because I just want to show them that, like, you know, all of their help.
But one thing is,
here.
they're aligned to your dream. Like, they are just seeing how passionate you are, and they want to support that passion. So what do you think it is about acting?
You know what's funny is, when we have a new person in the acting class I'm in currently, the teacher always asks, why acting? And I don't think I was asked that question when I joined, just because I joined a while ago. And every time he asks it, I do the same thing in my mind. I say, why? I still haven't found the real answer, because you can give like the fruitful, like, oh, I love to express myself and da, da, da. Like,
Right.
Yes, to an extent, but that's kind of the easy answer of like, yes, every actor wants to, you know, in this type of medium, show what they have to give and participate in a storytelling. But beyond that, like, why does it, like, why do I yearn for it so badly? I don't know. It's as simple as just, when passion's there. It's the same thing when, like, you can have the perfect.
That's why he's asking that too, because it is a question about passion and about purpose. And I think, like, people, even not in acting, in any walk of life, you should be asking yourself that about what you're doing at your work, at your job right now. If it's like, why this? And a lot of people don't know. They just don't know. And then they have to find that there is often like a higher purpose involved to what they're doing, but sometimes it's hard to get there. You don't know why exactly.
What's interesting about acting specifically, and why the whole world loves acting to some degree, is like, you might take it on a level to like become, like, there's people who take classes just to become better public speakers, better to be with themselves, more familiar improv, like they learn a lot of tools for just how to like be more comfortable in themselves. And there's others who like felt called to it on some kind of level, and they're all valid reasons, but like for me it was always, I'm going to come at, the only classes I ever teach are, I'm assuming you love acting already and now you want to do it professionally. So now you have to make another choice, because acting professionally is a different set of stakes and rules and understandings that are going to get a little bit more away from what you love about acting. And it's the business of that part. And I felt this duty, probably the same way you do when you see new people or whatever it is, like, to do my best to clarify and make it the most easy road to like understand, because then very quickly you realize, not taking this class again. I don't want to be a pro actor. And so it's interesting because, yeah, like, I know you as someone who wants to professionally act. And at the same time, there's something in it that is so profoundly like similar to what you did with Alex and your own life thus far, that is like, it's a shape-shifting, because you're not the same person online as you are in real life, right? It's an acting role to some degrees, but it's the most profound kind for me at this point in my life, because it's so meta, it's so real, that like the delineation is interesting. So as you take on roles and live these parts, like maybe you'll play some new Tyler Sheridan 1800s girl in some Western, I don't know, whatever that would be. That's going to be really different than when you played Devyn on the Devyn Instagram page or whatever it is. But it's fascinating because that's where we are now. And I do wonder what your acting career is going to be, because acting is changing. Like, you're in it now in a very interesting changing time with AI, especially.
Well, AI, social media, like she's in, and I mean, all these things.
It's a convergence of all
together.
of them.
Yeah.
Plus, like, we're taping this on Inauguration Day, and it's like, we're going into a new kind of theatrics with how the world runs with Trump. Like, we're all kind of like going to let him do what he needs to do. We're not going to react to him so much because it hurt us a little bit in 2016 to be so reactive. So he gets to kind of play. There's going to be a lot of like, that's just Trump being Trump. And he's already an actor so well. And now we're in this weird state where, especially you being who you are right now, you're at the crux of something with like, how much do I engage with social media? How's acting going to unfold for me? And then what is happening within the world, which I guess now organically is going to merge me into like TikTok. What do you think about what you know as an expertise about social media, what do people need to be informed about and understand as they become content creators and build their own communities and things like that? Like, what do you have any kind of knowledge around it? Or you're like, nah, I don't even think about that stuff.
You know, I'm a little unsure about social media and if it's changing right now, if we're going to have to switch up the way content is. I'm just not sure, just because so much has happened. TikTok was down for 12 hours. It's back. I don't know if the app has changed. I don't know if it'll be mostly the same, but through all of this, people will react and kind of naturally fall into a new space. Like social media always, it'll change and you either kind of change with it or you fall out of it. And I think I'm one of the people who fell out of it a little bit. I just didn't want to keep reinventing myself to keep posting and whatnot. But I think that's what it is in general. Just a job.
Is it too much work?
For the right person, no. For the right person, it's very little work. It depends on. There's so many different variety of type of content creator you can be. You can be someone who works on an hour-long YouTube video for a whole month, or you could be the girl on TikTok who posts 3 times a day, and neither nor has higher or lower value. It just depends on who's engaging, who's watching. And so if you want to make a career out of social media in these times, all I would say, if you don't know where to start, what I always recommend is, are you a content consumer? Are you even watching? Because what's important is, if you don't know where to start, then I say watch people that you like. And if you think you want to make content like that, take a little bit of inspiration to get your start. And then you have to watch how people react to it. And when you finally get a video that takes off, that's your magic. Don't leave your magic. A lot of people will say, especially let's say for TikTok specifically, to milk that idea until it is dead, because you will reap way more. If you post one post and the idea was great and you only posted that one time, you get this much benefit. And let's say within the next 5 days you post that same type of video 10 times, you reap this much benefit until you get to the next idea. And so with content and the way things are moving, be aware of the space, because you are not singular. Some people can be really great. Some people are just artistic geniuses and can create whatever they want and people will watch. And that is a skill that sometimes I feel is a bit innate that you work on. That's just having the vision, and that happens in any career, so people will come from nowhere and all of a sudden they're trailblazing.
Do you use that word for them, visionaries?
Visionaries? Oh, there's definitely some.
Media?
Yeah, because think about it. All it is creating some form of video content, whether that's more on an artistic side or just getting information out that you want to share, or just very simple, just talking about you. And there's so many different pockets and spaces that you can find success in any of them. Do what you feel.
So there's a higher purpose to what they're doing almost.
I think there's a purpose for everyone, even the content creators that you're like, okay, I don't understand why they have watchers or viewers. This seems mundane and
right.
monotonous, but that's the thing. Some people like just a more calm, not super impactful video because you want to wind down. Someone might not want to watch the 2-hour-long conspiracy theory that might be super engaging, but sometimes it's just, I want 15 seconds of dumb nonsense. And I get that. I love watching a bunch of different things.
So what are Steven and I? Are we content creators? What world have we come into now?
I think
with Liquid Bliss Worldwide. What do we have to know? Because we're not people who came in with a huge name already, who doesn't have to understand it. So what are and I enjoy it. I do enjoy being in here, but at the same time, I'm highly acute when you talk. I'm listening very closely. She didn't love it. Why do I think I'm going to love it? I like talking to people. I feel like there's a higher purpose for me attached to it all. At the same time, it's such a weird world.
Yeah.
If things become once you stick, because for you, listening to your story, it happened really weird and quick and odd, and you kind of just what have you? So what are the ways that people go about it? My kids all have one. They don't get many views. They're fine, but they all want to be YouTube stars.
There's not as much. There are certain equations that you do, like post with this type of title and this type of thumbnail and certain things that can help your success. But I will not, like, you can follow these equations that people give you of like, this is how to optimize your chance to have the algorithm favor you. They'll throw all these keywords out, right? And to an extent, that's a lot of that stuff does work, but you can, like I said, follow each step and still be left with, hey, no one's watching. And a part of it is, I don't want it to sound crushing, but you have to kind of find the part of you that people are willing to watch. It just has to spark something in someone.
But you have to like what you're putting out about yourself, I would think, if it worked. I would
say for your own sanity, but
don't.
I know some creators who know that, like I said, sometimes it is a business, and there's nothing wrong with that. They have so long, maybe been on YouTube creating one type of content, and it's still successful. It still turns out a bunch of views, and maybe at some point you grow out of it, and at that time it's your choice to be like, well, do I want to change my content and maybe jeopardize, this community I've built? And like, are they willing to grow with me, or do I have to kind of ditch them to find another one? People come to those paths, and that's why I say it's important, instead of sticking to one formulaic thing for your entire career.
Yeah.
You have to.
Well, that's in acting too, right? The formulaic people 100%. Who choose to play the same character over and over.
Exactly. It becomes dry regardless. Even if it's incredible, that it's just the human nature and psychology of things, you just can't take so personal. If you're trying super hard and like, oh, it's not working, people don't like me, sometimes it's not even that deep. It's just, you just have to slightly adjust one thing.
Okay, well, I have a question about, like, so with acting, as actors, we get producers and stuff to do all the marketing for us. You're talking about something, so like, I love meditation practice. And what I've learned through Dr. Joe Dispenza is there's actually a technique behind how you do things, which was a very revealing curtain thing. Like, I can breathe this certain way, I can focus on, and I can get myself into these certain states. And it's not magic at all. It's actually very scientific. And I like that scientific part of it. Because whenever I see anyone with a ton of followers, I'm like, that's a weird magic. You're saying it's not magic, or there is magic, or it is it's inexplicable at some point, but also it's something you can learn.
Yeah.
Or that some people understand innately.
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think the magic that you speak about sometimes is more in the ideas that come upon you. I think I'm reading this book called Big Magic, I'm pretty sure. And it's all about this theory that ideas are not yours. They float around the universe, and sometimes they will come upon you. And if you maybe don't capitalize in the moment, it'll leave you and go on to the next person. And that they're never really yours. And so I'm not sure how much, I'm not sure what I believe in when it comes into inspiration and what's triggering that, whether it's all from me or my environment or even some alternative magical power, which, I'm not even trying to, I did this, but there could be a portion of that, 100%.
I find myself going, what do you think, Steven?
Well, I'm really kind of fascinated, though. Yeah, there's this whole part of what you're talking about is maybe there's little intuition and things like that, and you're listening the right way, and maybe it's a relationship with those ideas, right? And you want to have a healthy relationship with them, and you want to commit sometimes to the good one. And going back, though, you mentioned, making that one little tweak to the idea or to the thing that wasn't there before being so key in that whole process. So you're making that little change to it, or you're viewing it through your lens in a way. But when you're saying that, I was thinking about, there's so many creators out there, and a lot of people might define their self-worth by the number of likes or something that they get. And I thought it was a good point you're making, that it might be that one little thing you just don't have it yet with your content. Do you have any advice for the people out there who are who feel that self-worth and the number of likes in anything they do?
Having your happiness rely on the numbers is such a dangerous game. I think a lot of creators feel that it's just it's social currency, And I think that is another reason why I've taken a step back. It's just because it wasn't even like I felt myself relying on it. I didn't feel my self-worth go down when the likes weren't there, but I felt weird that people started valuing me because I had it. Like, not in a, like, there's an extent of, oh, that's really cool, I admire, that's really cool, you could do that, and I appreciate that, because of course you're acknowledging that I put work into something and it outturned this result, so thank you for, highlighting that. I appreciate it. But then there's a difference of, well, why are you being kind of slimy and going about it weird? Like, why is that your first interest in me, and is that the only reason you're engaging with me in this moment? And so you have to be careful, because if you let the numbers rule you, let's say you have a bunch, is that turning you into a person you don't want to be? Like, it's just, it's the same thing with a lot of things in life. It's power, essentially, and your relationship with it. It's, are you going to let it corrode you and turn you into a person you don't want to be? Or are you going to have a healthy relationship? Because at some point, like, I won't say it's wrong that if a video does well, you shouldn't feel happy, because of course it's a fun feeling, but also recognize that you did that, and even if it doesn't happen again, it doesn't take away from the fact that you still did that. You were still that person. You grew and you changed, and whether it's happening now or not, you still succeeded. And so in terms of maintaining and shifting and whatnot, if you are noticing the numbers are making you feel a type of way, then you just have to reassess what your self-worth and value is.
I like that point you're making, like, if you let the numbers rule you, because I think so much in, like, business right now, people, they're just optimizing toward these numbers, and they can justify any sort of thing because they're optimizing toward these numbers. And you see that with business just going, any kind of scandal or anything where business just isn't authentic, or people getting fired in mass, all kinds of things can be excused because you're optimizing these numbers. And I see that maybe in the same way, like in social, sometimes, like, you can chase after the numbers and
get tied into it? Is it when the finances
I think the biggest way to pull yourself out of it is recognize that those numbers are people. Maybe in the same way with business, like, they're like, what is the other end of that? Because if you're just seeing it as purely statistics and analytics, like, that's not truth. There's someone behind the screen. So then if you were to tell me that I got 10 likes and each of those were genuine, why would I still not be happy about 10 likes? Because 10 people, like, 10 in a room like this, 10 people saying, hell yeah, that's cool, I would already be like, oh shit, like, you're right, it is cool. Like, why does it matter, like, 10 versus a million? Like, yes, that is, like, different.
Is it the finances? Is that the difference? Like, that's what I'm trying. I don't understand how it works with, when do you start, how does financial stuff work in with content creators?
I mean, finance,
like, do
yeah.
you chase the dollars after a while, and that's what
if it's your job, then wouldn't you? That's the
I don't know.
thing.
Again, it's like acting. At some point with acting, is it like, I'll get paid this amount if I do this, but I really would feel more fulfilled doing this, but it's not really gonna generate that thing. Are those the choices, like the content creators that you like the most? I'm sure it's a livelihood that pays nicely for them.
Right. I think the easiest way for me to explain a situation like that and how people engage with it is as simple as, let's use me, for example. I was in this sphere of, like, beauty and fashion a bit, and so the brand deals I did were related to that. I'd work with clothing companies, certain makeup products, and then at some point you'll come at a cross paths of, like, do I actually like this product? They're going to pay me X amount of money for this post, but would I actually, as a person, tell my best friend, like, hey, this mascara is worth your $25? Because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's just, some people are like, oh, who cares? Like, whatever, that's their decision. Doing that. I did my very best to not accept anything that I felt I truly wouldn't stand behind. I was just like, well, no, like, but to some people, maybe one, they need that money,
right,
to an extent,
so
like, if they're
fine.
starting out, and then at some point they're like, they put a lot of responsibility into their followers of, like, hey, yes, I am promoting, but be smart enough to know whether it's right for you. Some creators take that aspect, but then that's just the thing. It's like, is the creator going to sell out? That's the same thing in any career. Like, are they going to start posting things that they don't believe in just for the check? Some do, some don't. And me personally, I didn't. But then a lot of people might look at me and be like, well, no, duh, you're not successful. I'm like, well, that's up to you. I mean, sure, I'm not gaining X amount of followers and having this many people talk about me at a time, but I wasn't never in it. I was never in it that way. I loved I really, to this day, and why I want to express this in case it didn't come across. I do not regret, and I wouldn't take back any of my path. I'm so grateful for what people have done for me.
You seem very grateful for it.
Sometimes I'm nervous that because I don't post like I used to, people feel like, oh, she kind of just used it when she could and left it. But I don't think anyone takes that perspective. That's just something in the back of my mind I want to be aware of. But it's such, that job, being a content creator, like if it actually can pay you full time, is you just have to recognize how blessed you are, because the opportunities it presents you with is like no other.
Interesting.
It is such a giving job. Like you get so much free stuff. You go to all these events, all this, and so you have to have your morality in check, because a part of it is like this feeling of fame, things coming to you for free, people thinking you're cool because you have followers. Now I can get in this club without them asking, even if I'm 19, because I'm so and so, you know, like, and I'm not even saying.
You're just describing a new Hollywood almost. I mean, it really seems more. I can see why my kids are more attracted to that, the way we talked about movie stars. They don't talk about them that way anymore.
I mean, the funny thing is, if that's what you want and you're doing it, like there is a sense you can still have all those things and be a good person. But I'm saying, of course, like any career in life, when things like greed maybe comes into the mix and other things, you just have to be careful. Just because that job can so quickly give you everything you ever wanted, that it's like, wait, so I constantly, I mean, I think even without the career, I'm always checking myself of like, well, what do I actually care about? Where do I want to put my energy into? And how do I advance with a career of my choice? And at some point, I think, especially now more than ever, this past year, I chose acting instead of social media, just because I can still have a lot of those things with acting, but that's never what I was there for, which I also like, kind of like, it gave me a reality check, because sometimes if you're pursuing acting, are you wondering if your subconscious just wants to be famous? And I'm like, my thing with me that I reassure myself with is, I had a chance to really capitalize on people and just be a big deal. And I did not want it in that fashion. I wanted people to respect me and love my art and what I have to give. And I guess circling back around to like why acting, it's the only thing that fills my cup, and an art form that I think is my favorite. I think it's just as simple as that. I like watching movies. I like watching shows, and to be a part of it feels like the biggest dream of a lifetime. Like I just want to be on set and turn this story that is starting from words on a paper and lift it and turn it into like this. I feel like that's the dream, isn't it? Not just like,
it's cool.
It's turning imagination into something real, which is what job really gets to do that.
That's why it's completely different in what you're talking about too, between content creators and whatnot.
I think acting and content creation are so different in my mind. Different. And so when people try and tell me bridge them together, I'm like, it's not that simple.
No, it's not that simple, but it is an interesting. I only am looking at it because it is the phenomena of what's happened. I mean, like, this is what's going to be spoken about. And its time might have already passed, because honestly, we're going into AI now. So the next 10 years are going to really recalibrate all of the arts, all of consciousness that we're involved in, and we're figuring that part out now.
What truth is.
So and what truth is.
Yeah.
And so what you're chronicled for us today, I feel is its own time capsule of, because I think we're starting a new chapter. I think there's a reason that I'm curious to see how your friend Alex evolves, because he still loves doing it, right?
Yeah, I'm curious too. I mean, he's been amazing at it. A lot of people.
Like, will he transform into acting? Because I mean, he's obviously a shapeshifter on his own. Or will he be a social activist and someone that like feels like I need to now like take stands? Like
they're going to be like, yeah, no, we've got the AI to do the acting for you. We just want your likeness, and can we just do this? And
do you know what's funny though? What I'm just gonna pick up off what you said. I feel like a lot of people in this career, in content creation, that career, always feel that they have to turn it into something else. Like, oh, maybe I should try the music thing. Maybe I should try the acting thing. Maybe I should try being a host and all these things. They want to turn it into something else. And the main reason is because they're nervous that they see
it came fast,
like,
and it can
how
go
volatile
fast.
it is, right? Yeah. And they want to put some more insurance into something. But the truth is, what I think is commendable, and people maybe say, oh, that's a lame choice, but I think is a hard choice, which it's controversial because people are going to be like, social media is not hard. It's hard over a long period of time. Not arduous, but difficult to navigate sometimes. Choosing content creation as your career for a very long time and being successful is a feat in my mind, because I cannot name I honestly, no one comes to mind when I think of when my best friend Alex started, who was big when he was, that is still as big as he is today. There's a very small amount of people who can do that. And so he, he has the type of magic and like that, that it takes to be a content creator. I don't think I have it. I think,
I'm curious because like he's, or does it lead to a higher purpose if you stay involved with it? Otherwise you're out too. Like a social justice kind of thing, or a feeling of fun, like no one's fun anymore. So does he just like, I'm going to stay, I promise you, Devyn, I'm still going to be fun, and whatever his thing is, he's all about
He's just funny. I think
funny.
Honestly, the thing with my friends that I think maybe to some people is not the most like, is a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, is their purpose is just living their best life. And like, I'm not saying that takes away. I'm not even saying that takes away from anyone else. Like some people might immediately take that sentence as selfish, but at the same time, they're also very giving and kind people, which people don't want to acknowledge, because they also take the time to just do what they want in their life. Like if they're in the place that they freed up their own schedule because their job allows them to do all these fun things and have the finance to back it, my mindset is, well, why not? You get one life. If you want to do these things, go do them. Of course, like I don't want them to turn into this false reality. Oh, they're like not making but that's so like, I don't know if people project that onto them that they're gonna become out of touch, but I hope that at some point everyone has to go through life and ground themselves before they're too high in the clouds.
Acting is such a weird thing because you do have to they've always compared it to like it is its own thing, because like being a rock star is probably closer to being a content creator, because if being a rock star you can be your own weird personality and live in its own world. Actors constantly have to kind of like stay becoming different characters, and they can't be too eccentric. I mean, some of them are, but not in the same way, like, because they're not themselves, right? They're actors.
Yeah, I think acting is so different. Like you said, I kind of almost feel that rock stars and maybe musicians is more similar to content creation than acting is, because they have more, like, that is their message, their art. They have a little bit more control, like outside of a record label and maybe their plans for them. They're navigating their vision and what they put out into the world, where with acting, it's like you're trusting that you get to take a part in the stories you want to tell, but sometimes you don't. Right now, where I am at, maybe there's an opportunity that I'm like, this wasn't like, I have dream roles. Maybe this one's not a dream role, but I'm still excited. It's not the story I imagined telling, but I'm still really happy to do it. But there is less choice. I can't sit here in my career and be like, yeah, you know what? I want to be in the next Barbie. I'm like, who's listening to me at this point? Maybe someone will take a chance, but I don't have that type of power, where I feel like with content creation, you can start from day one and be like, this is the type of creator I want to be. I'm going to go be that. Whether you get there or not, you have that choice.
How do you find your daily happiness?
I think for so long, when I was younger, I found a lot of peace in sadness. Like I just always felt myself coming back to this place of maybe not sadness, but just a place a little bit below content. And I was like, I belong here. My soul feels like so dumb, like it's such a teenage melodramatic mindset. But I recognized I was carrying that. I kept telling myself, happiness isn't a choice, like you have to fight for all these things. I kept feeling like it was never given, like you had to work really hard to be happy.
It's a choice, huh?
I shifted my perspective. I'm like, if it's a choice, choose it. And I literally just shifted it. Like it took a little bit of a while, but instead of every day being like, oh, well, I don't have these things, like I'm not where I want to be, it's just, okay, well, I'm gonna put in the work, so I'm getting there, is now my mindset. You have so much, like even when you feel like you have nothing, you have so much. Being alive to me is such a huge gift. Like life is so beautiful if you just step outside. Like everyone,
I think you were talking about living your best life, and when you have gratitude like that, I think that's really key for anyone to living their best life.
Yeah, exactly. That sentence ranges so differently with a bunch of different people. Living my best life might just be going to work, focusing on acting. I don't know, like it's not,
all kinds of crazy things.
It doesn't have to be millions of dollars and vacations and luxury things,
whatever it is. Gratitude seems to be like this huge, powerful emotion that if it can authentically, if you can feel it, then like it seems to magnetize and really allow
I feel like it releases a weight off your shoulders, because all of a sudden when you start thinking about all that you do have versus what you don't, it's the shift.
Right.
I just find myself much more being like, I have so much. Like, I'm so grateful.
Well, what's weird is there's an addiction. This is what I've come to and where I'm at in life and what I grapple with is there is an addiction to that stress and anxiety and to not feeling that peace that has been like, it's primal, right? It's how we survived running away from saber-toothed tigers, but it runs us way too often. So gratitude seems to kind of transform that stress energy into like more like gratitude, joy. Would you get, you got joy, compassion,
Right.
these kind of words.
Right.
But it is a weird thing how quickly the stress wants to come back on every day, right? Every day. It's like I say, well, how do you find your daily happiness? I didn't say
Right.
happiness because I feel like it's every day, right? Like
So
there's always
true.
that part of you that you have to choose it because there's that other part that's going like, oh, Devyn, you're never going to make it. Or, oh, Devyn, did you do enough today? Oh, Devyn. Like whatever it is, like that's it. I didn't realize how addictive chemically it is to our body. And like you have to kind of, it's like getting off sugar. You got to like, okay, no, wait. Gratitude. And gratitude, it feels like vegetables sometimes for me. But then when it really hits me, it's such a like medicine to the stress that it's like it feels so good. Like, oh God, I'm grateful again. That way nothing can invade. I don't need anything today, right? If I'm grateful. But it's such a fucking platitude word. It's a word that can just easily just be glossed over. Oh yeah, I'm grateful. You know, like
Yeah.
we pray at night for dinner sometimes. And what are you grateful for with my kids? My kids, they're the best, but they're like, they ain't going deep on that one today.
Yeah.
There ain't no, I'm great. I don't know the food by, you know, like whatever it is.
Global
Saturdays.
global truth is life is hard and it will put you through so many situations that you don't deserve. But the moment that you can just recognize that we're all kind of in this same boat, like, yes, there are some people who are more fortunate than others, but just look inwards. Like, I don't even want to sound like a preacher. The thing is, I wish that everyone in a hard place can get to a better place. And it's just about knowing how to take those small steps to get there, because as soon as you think big picture of like, that's why I like you said daily happiness, because if I
Daily.
start with just my day, then it's like, oh, that's a little bit easier to grasp. Where if I focused on, oh, maybe like 2024 was really shit, how do I make 2025 the best? Like that's so huge. All of a sudden it feels out of your grasp.
It's fun, but it's all, it's a,
Yeah,
win out.
you just need to shrink it down.
Yeah, shrink it down even
Shrink it
further than
down.
that. Shrink it down to
Hour by
the
hour.
then to the minute,
Like
then
alcoholics.
to the moment. Then you're in the
Yeah.
moment. You're in the moment with
Yeah.
gratitude as much as you can. I mean, that's really kind of the key, because we get distracted by 1,000 different things.
I think the people that believe in you that you've talked about that support you, whether it's your father, your acting teacher, we believe in you, is that we have seen that part of you that you talked about. Like you really do understand that we're all in the same boat. That's what I think one of your things about you that is very deeply, I don't know, maybe it was there when you were a kid, is this appreciation of humanity in its messiness. Like I've asked your advice on some stuff for Liquid Bliss Worldwide and this and that, and you'll be like, you're always respectful. Like, hey, if that's what they do, that's cool. You might want to do something like this though, or this, you know, you really are good at advising and kind of implementing. And I appreciate your help with this kind of stuff. And where are we at? Like, I think we're probably where are we
Getting
at?
close to the end here.
Where are we at? How long has it been? Because I didn't time us.
Yeah, we could be close to the end.
Is it an hour?
We're an hour 20, but we had
so
like
it's
about
like-
10 minutes beforehand.
Yeah, so we
an
can
hour
be
10.
good. And
Yeah.
but yeah, it does seem like I feel like that's gonna be really powerful. I think that's something, I don't know if I found a through line with you for this conversation, but I do wonder if things happen upon you in this way.
Maybe I'm just a lucky person. I kind of
Well,
feel
there's
like
people
I am.
that like, yeah, well, and because you allow people to kind of like, you really don't hate on people, but you also have a very strong sense of who you are, and you don't compromise your life. Oh, did I get compromised? I got compassion. Yeah, I think it's really been nice having you on and being our first representation of what Gen Z is, and even putting in that category is a little dumb, but at the same time,
But it's
you
good
have
for
a
other people
different.
to see the different perspective that
I feel like it's a lot of,
you know, the younger generations going through these days have just different things coming at them, and older generations had different things coming at them, and it's like, can we bridge that a little bit with, you know, compassion?
like,
for
I don't
each
know
other?
how many of your
See, I got it in there.
community. Here's how, like, I don't know how much of your community would if they watched this interview with you, I don't know how many of them would ever feel the need to watch anyone else that's on this show, but I know I can speak for my generation and the older generations that we have coming in, like the boomers and the silent generation. They very much want to see what Devyn has to say. They're very interested in what does Liquid Bliss Worldwide decide Gen Z. Like they would like the conversation that we're having, and that's interesting because I think they need to know. I don't need anything, but like I think it's really interesting. And why I'm coming back to saying thank you for coming in, because I feel like, yeah, like this is a good person that they can she's going to be very honest about what's happening within the culture of her own personal lens of life. She's not speaking for her generation, but I like that. And I do think that, I don't know how much you pipe into anyone else's conversations, but for us, it's the most wonderful thing is having a conversation with you is so different than the ones we've been having the last few weeks with different generations. I'm glad you're representationally kind of like, thanks for talking to us and allowing your self to. Now I'm floundering for words, okay. But you were really. Yeah. I do want to just break the impact. I'm really grateful. That's what it is. I'm really grateful that you're willing, because,
No, yeah, no, thank you. I think a podcast like this is really cool. I think it's important to have conversation in general with as many different people you can. I think there's so much joy to be found in each other rather than just being led as an individual. And so to have a podcast that's speaking with people from such different walks of life, to me, will always be fascinating and something that I would try to get other people to engage with, because there's we can learn so much from each other.
It feels like, and everyone's trying to pull us apart.
Yeah,
right?
like let's just
it's inauguration day, and half the country's not happy, the other half the country's really happy, but they're all just trying to pull each other and capitalize on resentment.
And I am optimistic. I just hey man, there was fires in LA in January. It's a weird time. It's like you say, if you ever go for the new year, you're always pretty doomed. Like, every time it's gonna be a better year, but yeah, so daily dose of happiness is all we ask for, and then don't compromise and pursue your dreams.
Yeah.
If I'm to squish it down, I say, just do what you love what you do, and do your best to just do your best. I don't know.
No, finish it. You got it.
I say, I don't know. I don't want to
trust where you're going.
Let me see. Let me see if joy can help me.
Do your best to find joy.
Let's see what joy can help me. I mean, the way I lead my life is I just try to focus, as long as I'm not hurting anyone intentionally and don't let anyone intentionally hurt me, and I'm doing my best to share like light and love. I think that is such a great path to
I like
choose.
the word intentionally there too. I mean, I think that's so important, because we mentioned this, and I mentioned it often, is you got to have grace with each other, because some people aren't intentionally trying to.
That's the truth. Like, you have to recognize that a lot of people aren't out to get you, and we're all going through really hard times. So I give a lot of grace just to take the pressure off of me and them. We're all human. All of this sucks, and so I just want to do my part in trying to make it better, and hope that I can bring people along with me, and that's kind of just it.
All right.
What's your favorite word? We're putting together from each of our.
What's
a word you love in life that you kind of like? We're going to put together a Bliss deck.
Yeah, we're getting.
What's already in here?
Okay, you want it to be that word?
No. I mean, I could choose. Even if it's in here, I can
synchronicity
choose it.
sting. That's mine.
We've had some interesting ones, but no, a word just in life that's important to you.
Yeah.
It's, two we already touched on. It's either intention or grace. Let's go with grace, because
nice. I like that. Yeah, I say for you especially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, give yourself grace as well. Let's all just chill and have fun.
Thanks.
There we go. Thanks.